Let everybody watching on Instagram. We are back. If you can't hear it, then I will just turn up the volume just a little bit. That's all I had to do. What? Oh, allow it. Okay, that's a lot better. All right, we're good now. Anyways, so let's try that again, folks. Hello, everybody on YouTube that's watching this later. Sorry about that. This is a two-parter to the podcast because I am not the best with technology, but I'm learning. Anyway, so let's get back to what I was saying. Um, so here's what I've learned in terms about worrying, and this is kind of indicative of things in general. I think everybody has that voice in their head when they're always thinking of the other shoe to drop, right? They're always kind of fixate, not always, but especially in modern society, we're inundated with so much stuff. And I spoke about this on Bill's podcast. We're inundated on so much stuff that we can't get away with it. Whereas back in the day, you could just get away from it. You could just have a life. You could have a childhood. Not everything was so in your face. And this is actually what the Psyche Junction video highlights is that a noisy mind is not a strong mind, but it's a mind that has been trained to survive and not live. And that worrying is basically a form of addiction in the sense that it gives you a strange sense of a strange sense of control. So that was very much my issue growing up. Because of how my life has unfolded in terms of my limitations physically and what I could and could not do, I felt like because of that, I had to control everything else to the nth degree. It was basically an all or nothing type of way to look at things, and very much not a healthy way to look at things. And the reason why I titled this stream Paralysis by Analysis is that I didn't start getting therapy. I never even started going to therapy until I was in my early to mid 20s at university. And one of the first therapists I had, his name is Dr. Begg, a really great Indian guy. Shout out to him. He would say, like, you're doing paralysis by analysis. You're basically stuck in a feedback loop, like almost like the Mark Manson book, Sell Art of Not Giving an F. When you're stuck in that feedback loop, it makes life and the most minor things feel like gargantuan and impossible tasks, right? So, in a sense, getting back to the video, it says worrying is distraction. Worrying is distraction dressed as responsibility. And that applies to many things because I think a lot of people, and I've actually spoken to a lot of people about this, they have issues going to sleep. One of the things they say is never bring your laptop into the bedroom. Always have the TV off. I'm very much a person that needs to sleep with the TV on. Like, I need some type of a noise. Because unless there's ambient sounds happening, unless there's noises going on, I've tried like these Indian chakra things that kind of you hit a couple times it's more like the vibes. They're almost like Gregorian chants. If there's not some type of noise going on in the background, all my mind does is spiral. It's like the Doug Stanhope joke. Like, that's when the carnival really kicks in. Because then you're confronted with all your fears, your anxiety, your regrets, everything that you've regretted doing, you know? Because, again, to quote like what the video says, society inundates us with worry, almost as to say, if you're not stressing about something, then you're not doing it right. You need to be worried about this, whether it's about what's going on, overseas, what's going on with your community, whether it's family, whether it's financial, whether it's this, that, and the other, health wise, too. You know, especially like on my Instagram, I'm getting inundated with so many different things about health, in terms of like, well, blueberries are good for this. Actually, they're not. Well, actually, if you like eat protein at this time at night, and it's not. And it's just incessant and on and on and on and on. And another quote from the video says, overthinking doesn't mean that you're evolving. What it really means is that your nervous system is stuck in overdrive. You're replaying old fears under new disguises. Because worrying makes you feel like you're participating at life, when in reality, you're watching from the sidelines. And that line in particular, guys, hit me like a ton of bricks. And the reason why I say that is because um, I never even realized that most of my life. Most of my life, people are just kind of going with the flow, going with the motions, going one thing to another. Like, I'm envious of the people that as soon as their head hits the pillow, they can just go conk like that. And their brain just does not keep going. I do not have one of those brains. Sometimes I wish I did, but at the same time, You realize other people in creative vocations and other forms, they have the same issues. You know what I mean? Because when you're creating, when we're trying to think of something, you're over analyzing. You're thinking at it from every single different type of angle, and that's not a great way to live. Hey, let me couch. You are so much more serious on your cast. Yeah, it's a different type of tone, man. I get silly at times too in here. Like I like doing silly songs and stuff like that. But I like to pick a topic, and this one I think really hits home with me. So, in a sense, I've been striving to find real peace. I've been struggling to find real peace, and I feel like a lot of people aren't even aware that they're struggling to find this because there's so much distraction. There's so much nonsense in your life that really has nothing to do with you. Whether the Blue Jays won, the stock market does this, whether so and so cares about this, your favorite reality show stars, none of it means jack squat when it comes to your actual life. And I thought about that deeply the other day, like, especially when you get caught up in YouTube rabbit holes, ironic considering where we're broadcasting from and what I'm doing. Um, you get so inundated with nonsense. And I've often asked myself, and my therapist even asked me that the other day, like, when you're incessant and when you just can't stop that feedback loop from hell, and when you're looking at old regrets, ask yourself what you learned from this situation. Ask yourself why you're fixated on this. And it's not an easy thing to do because I think most people aren't that self-reflective. They just kind of go with the flow and kind of do whatever because, again, you're just kind of moving with the flow of life. And another one of the quotes from the video is that worrying is just the mind telling a script that was never meant to control. It's the brain trying to feel useful when it's scared because it's an illusion of control. And the real change happens when you start handling things as they come, not as you feared that they would be. It's almost like the Mark Twain quote about, I've known people with a great many troubles, but none of them ever really happened, right? So I bring up this topic, and sorry if the stream's a little bit more serious, you guys, but I bring up this topic because on the weekend I did the show at Villain. Shout out to them, by the way. I'm going to get into what that place really means to me and countless others within the Windsor area and why it has to be protected at all costs. Because you rarely, rarely have a bar in a community and just a place where you can go to be yourself. But that night, especially before show nights, I always, always can never sleep. Like, especially when you're hosting too, because you have to make announcements, you have to time the comics to see that they're not going too over their time or just kind of keep track of things. And then you also have to do your act, you know? So when I'm doing these shows, I'm looking at the reach that we have, how much financially we're doing, what the ads are doing, what the Eventbrite's doing. And my boy Christian's been helping me out with that. But I'm getting more into a habit of going over my set list and going over stuff and just kind of getting out the anxiety 2 days before. 2 days before. So I have my set list and I can modify it. But on that particular night, I had invited some guests, some people that came to see me, and I wasn't sure what the ticket sales or what the ticket counts was going to be. And I needed the money, I'm not going to lie, because I'm jumping on the road with Bill and with a couple of other comics that, uh, I respect and that I work with. And I just couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep because my mind the entire night was fixated on I don't want to screw up this person's intro. I want to make sure I get this done. What if this happens? What if that happens? You go over like a million different scenarios, almost like a stress test that like they have in Bar Rescue, when you just get flooded with orders or you get flooded with different scenarios. I know they do this in football too. When you run different plays and different audibles and different um, ways that you can kind of adjust the play. So that's what I was doing in my head. And by the time I got to the show, you guys, I'm not going to lie, I was exhausted. I was completely mentally exhausted. I may have slept, but my mind was not at ease. And I finished the show. I had fun. We went out and we got drinks and did what we had to do. But the next day, I just felt like incomplete. I felt like a fraud. I really did. As stupid as it sounds, I felt like a fraud because I know what I'm capable of, not just in my own comedy sense, but in life. Because I never realized all the pressure I put on myself. Because I'm the only guy when it comes to my family, okay? It's mostly like I have sisters and I have a brother and stuff, and like stepbrothers and all that in different parts of the world. But it's basically just me. Like I felt like an only child for a bit. And as dumb as it sounds, like you do certain things to validate your existence. And I felt like I didn't do that. I felt like I only scratched the surface of like what I could have done with that show. Granted, it was the long weekend. It was hot outside. We were bound to have a show like that, especially in the summer, because for those that don't know, it's hard to get people out to watch comedy shows in the summer. It just is because you have a million vacations, you want to barbecue, you got the pool open, this, that, and the other. And I thought back to my childhood, and I thought back to a lot of stuff. And my grandmother, when she was teaching me how to read and write, and she was teaching me all the fundamentals that I apply to my life today, she would always say, David, why are you complicating things? Why are you making things more harder than they need to be? Because especially when I was doing math, because I hate math, um, because in math it's kind of never wrong. The numbers don't lie. But especially if you gave me a formula with algebra, I hate algebra. To this day, it's like a whole nother language to me. It's like trying to translate like a dead language. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I can understand like the value of like a number, of a letter can equal a number and this and that, but I was overcomplicating the formula. She's like, why are you complicating this so much? And even though I was a young boy, I never had an answer for her. I never had an answer. I'm like, I don't know, Grandma. I don't know. And I would sit there fixated on a problem, a math problem. And then this is also what screwed me up when it came to taking a test. Some people just suck at school, and they're some of the dumbest people you've ever met in their life, but they're good at tests. They can just ace it like it's nothing. They can just turn off their brain. I can't do that because if I don't get one aspect of the answer right, or I feel like I left it off, I'll go back to it, but then it'll just be the feedback loop from hell. I can't stop it, you know? And the biggest thing that I think I've learned in the past 2 to 3 years of therapy, and even before that, is staying present and being in the moment. Because, like another one of the quotes is when you stop feeding the worry, you stop needing to predict the path and predict the future. And so much of what I do is thinking about the hypotheticals, not being present, not in the moment. Like it was affecting so much of my relationship, guys, that I felt like I was alienating people, but not on purpose. That's why you have to turn to substances. That's why you have to turn to other things that kind of shut down your mind. Because I legitimately could not do it. I did not know how to do it. I did not have the skills to do it. Nobody taught you this, especially as a man of color. I'm not trying to be woe is me or be woke or kind of like feel sorry for myself, but in our community especially, it's not talked about. It wasn't talked about. It hasn't really been talked about in terms of the mental health, really for like the past 15 years. When I was in my 20s, that's when you really started having more conversations and when the birth of social media. So for the vast majority of my life, I had no idea I even had this problem. I had no idea I was alienating myself from others and other people. And, you know, I never really knew how to be present, how to even breathe, right? And I look at other people and see their confidence. And men always get this confused, or we can always kind of, what's the word? We can conflate things. Because when they see a dude doing well with a woman or with the opposite sex or whatever, kicking ass in life, they're thinking, well, he's 6'4", got a chiseled jaw, he works out, he makes six figures, he's just confident. People are going to naturally gravitate to you. And it took me forever to realize, guys, that's not entirely true. That's partially true. There's people that are doing really, really well and making a whole lot of money, but are the biggest idiots. The most socially inept people when it comes to like the most minor of things that you think you would be taught in kindergarten. They have no idea what the hell they're doing. And I'm like, that's not confidence. That's fear disguised as confidence. Because essentially, again, I'm reading from more of these quotes. Confidence is not built by avoiding chaos. It is built by moving through it one breath at a time. Because you can meet discomfort without collapsing. You can meet discomfort just by taking it as it is. I did not know how to do that. Because up until the past 2 years, I had no idea. I as of right now, I'm starting to handle things as they come and not as I feared that they would be. So I know this is a little bit more serious than the last one, but I had to get this off my chest. basically this entire year, you never realize that you're the one that holds yourself back the most in so many different ways, right? And especially with the shirt, I feel like a yogi that's like, I feel like a yogi that like got stuck in downward dog and doesn't really know how to revamp his way out of it, you know? But I think this year in general, the real change, not just within me, is the people that I've been surrounding myself with. And if you guys are having the same issue, I suggest you get rid of toxic people in your life. And I feel like that term gets used too much, like toxic or gaslighting and this and that, because oftentimes the people that are claiming it, it's like the old fart joke, like whoever smelt it dealt it. He who cast the first stone has to cast it onto thyself and point the finger at yourself. So I really think the real change this year, not I think I know, has been surrounding myself with different people. And I'll get to why Villains is a special place for me. I'll have a sip of coffee. So I've been thrilled to do shows at Villains this year. We used to do them back in the day, back in the mid 2010s. Shout out Rob Kemeny and all them that were putting on the shows back in the day, because a lot of them have gone on to have successful careers, the people that I started with, right? And for the longest time, all I was doing was comparing myself to them. Comedians do this all the time. People do this all the time. I know for a fact, because the algorithms and the way that modern technology and society is set up, it's to make you feel crappy. It's to make you feel shitty, okay? Because you see people's highlight reel and you're comparing yourself and like, well, I can't do that. There's no way in any world that I'd be able to compete with that or have a sense of self or have like the means to be able to do that. And every time I go to Villains, that never happens. Like that, it's the one place in downtown that's not like any other bar down here. It's not a club. It's not full of people that are trying to do drugs or just wild out or dance or be idiots. Like that happens upstairs. Don't get me wrong, the Coffin Club is pretty lit. From the sounds of it, I've never been up there because stairs. But I've always felt a sense of belonging there. The only other club I really felt that sense of belonging was at the Loop, and that was a dance club. It was above the fish market off of Chatham and Ferry Street, right where the bus station is right now. It's a couple blocks away from there. And Villains has always had a special place in my heart because I've always connected with the people there in a sense because it truly is the island of misfit toys. I know that term gets used a lot. When you hear Mitzi talk about the Comedy Store in LA and stuff like that, and the inmates running the asylum. But Villains is very unique and special. Like, there's no bouncer. They don't really do. They do a lot of paid shows, but everybody knows each other, you know. And there's going to be drama and controversy and this and that. But in my experience, that is one of my safe space bars. It truly is, because it doesn't matter who you are, there's always this feeling of acceptance. And I've always felt accepted there. And I feel like that is important and essential for so many people's lives, right? I think that's what's lacking with a lot of people is that that's why you have all these extremes within the political spectrum or, with sports or what have you. People getting so radicalized on either side. They're looking for a tribe. They're looking for something to belong. And sometimes that tribe can steer you in the wrong direction. But I've never had that sense with Villains. So when I spoke with the manager, shout out Costa there, that we were going to start doing shows, it felt like a match made in heaven that I've never really experienced before. I always felt putting on your own show would be really daunting. I never really knew how to start with that. And don't get me wrong, guys, there's been a whole lot of trial and error, and I'm still learning in a sense. Same with Christian and I. But the reason why Villains is so special to me is that it's not a huge bar, but it's big enough where there's a charm, there's a quaintness, especially because of all the illustrations and the portraits on the window, or sorry, on the walls and windows. There's a million different chandeliers, and I joke I've been drunk there a million different times. And I'm still counting different chandeliers. Um, you know, it's always given me that sense of belonging and that sense that everything's going to be okay no matter what I'm going through. And very, very rarely, I feel like in life, do you have a place like that. Like my grandfather always loved going to dive bars, and my grandmother never understood. It's like, Leo, why do you love going to these crappy dive bars? Like, it just sucks. smells in there. They really clean the bathrooms. They have piss warm beer. It just sucks. And he's just like, I don't know. I just like it in there. It's nice. It's nice. And I realized that was his tribe. That was his community. That's what gave him purpose. So many people lack purpose, you know? And it can be the most minor of things. It can just be going out for a walk. It can be writing something down. It can be painting something. It can be just doing trivial and remedial tasks around your house that give you purpose. Just keeping certain things clean. Like, you can't see it right now, guys, but my place was an absolute like shambles. Okay, my table, I could barely find sections on it to like put my food on when I was eating. I have to push it off to the side. Just in terms of like when a painter has all their paintbrushes and stuff, like that was my table. Now I move it all to another table, but I'm actually finding sections to it. And there's something to be said about that because I've stopped worrying about what my place looks like. I'm more so worried about how I feel about it, you know? That feedback loop from hell is not as prevalent as it used to be. So I'm realizing like what real peace looks like. I'm realizing that the worrying that I kind of did, not just in my head, but I know countless others do, it's a lifelong issue. It's a lifelong, it's a lifelong process. It never goes away like that. But even having those moments of lucidity where your mind gets quiet, to me, that's when real growth happens. And the only time I really have that is on stage when I'm working out or doing something where it requires my full and complete attention. So, trying to think. I think that's pretty much all I have for you today. Sorry, this one was a bit more serious than the past ones. There was a bit of a delay in the middle, so you can skip past that. But again, um, I'm going to be on the road a lot. I'm collaborating with more people now. I've never felt more fulfilled ever in my life than I am recently and currently. And shout out to everybody that's watching and the people that have helped me throughout these past few years. So you guys are the real MVPs, and I appreciate y'all. And like, this is a journey, so I will get better at doing these streams. They'll be a bit more structured and less serious and less whatever. But that's the theme I wanted to go with today. Um, yeah, because as soon as I spoke to my therapist, she put a lot of things in perspective for me. So I hope I was able to help some of y'all. I hope I gave you some laughs despite all the serious stuff. But I will list the road dates below, and then we will go from there. And I will see you guys sometime next week because I'm going to be having Alex Monk on the show. He is a professional improviser within the Windsor area. We're going to be talking about our experiences producing shows around here and just the evolution of where the IRL League, the Improv Recreational League, started and its origins and stuff like that. And I'll do a whole lot less rambling. So I appreciate all you guys. Have a great rest of your week. If you're in London, come and check out myself and Uncle Bill. We're gonna light that stage on fire. You know, you guys are gonna have to stage dive me out. You know, you're gonna have to kind of carry me out like that. But I'm looking forward to this weekend. I need to get away. So appreciate all you guys for watching on my Instagram, on my YouTube. I love all of y'all. Wrist it. Do a little heart thing, even though it looks like a crappy Batman symbol. But I appreciate all y'all deeply and truly. Take care. Cheers.